Hello, hey, hi, everybody. Social media family, being of whatsoever race, being not necessarily being of whatever walks of life, facets of society, lifestyle preferences. You gotta recognize and realize places and things. Been at the wrong place at the wrong time in the wrong crowd. Been there, done that. Don't want to do it again anytime too soon enough again. Hope it will be a long time in coming, if and when, if at all. So I say, you gotta recognize and realize, you know. You can't hang with some anybody and everybody. You know, anybody with half their marbles know that. And if you have at some such a given moment in time, in times past, hopefully you would not think uh, that of a rather, how should I put it, brainwashed, brain dead, or brainless notion to try that again. And because fools walk in where angels fear to tread, done that, don't want to do it again. Or as I was saying, in more words or less, regardless of whether or not that my person speaking correct, proper standard English grammar, being of the American dialect of some or such qualities and quantities or not. Yes. Or be I speaking in King's English or street slang. The bottom line is, as I have gone about stating just that for the record, hopefully some, if not all, of you all, or persons among yourselves, would at least get the general idea of what I'm trying to say. If not, the full Monty or the butt naked truth and fact of the matter, then because it would prove to become a be rather serious consequences to fall prey to characters, cases, and or situations up under conditions, then of which could practically and or possibly become of extenuating circumstances, being of which would not prove to become or be in your better interest or anybody else's for that matter. So I say to you all, being of whom are of my social media family, being of whom are in addition, and not counting the internet trolls in the negative, God forbid. And especially if the likes would remind me of certain proverbial neighbors from hell, of public nuisances or problem neighbors, like the one I had wrote all this about and give copies of it to the management of the building, landlord, you know, as well as I had laminated it and posted on my wall. Letters of correspondence, uh, paperwork documents to verify or confirm, however said, what this, excuse my pardon, French dickhead prick of a psychopath, sociopath, and a sadist character continues to attempt to put me through on a daily and on a nightly basis. Well, obviously or evidently, that my person, I'm not feeling too Christian at the moment as a believer in God, aka Protestant, but then I'll get to that shortly. Just bear with me. No, not literally, actually bear with me. Besides all that, I'm not looking for a lover or bedside companion or bed bunk buddy or sexual partner. Unless, of course, you're of a born and raised female person, then no less of a woman or whatever race, and whatsoever walk of life, fashion of society, or lifestyle preference, being of whom is not one of those. Female card carrying members to a male haters club of woman, being of the likes of the she faggots, aka bull daggers, dykes, or lesbians or lesbos, or whatever I have said. Mm. But then, nevertheless, as I think of it with that in my mind's intentions to try to backtrack here with reasonable purposes being known, so I can go on to following to continue from where and when that my person had last left off, so that I can or could possibly, for reasons and purposes being, which is to finish up then and there as I go on with the following to try as best I can of my intentions to complete or form a previous or prior line of thought and in that same sense of the word. I did say that correct the first time more or less, didn't I? No, so far as I'm going to backtrack here for reasonable purposes then, so I can go on to following to continue from where and when I last left off, so that I can finish up, then and there by going on with the following to complete a form of previous or prior line thought in the sense. Yes, okay, more or less. Well, so I paraphrase and not quote exactly. And to get this basic intro as an introduction out the way, before I were to speak upon any some or such a subject matter of an issue at hand, pardon the pun, none was intended, none had been meant, and no disrespect is most certainly, definitely not meant to be directed at any past, present, or future sexual assault victims, rape victims, and or murder or murdered victims of perps, as in perpetrators of those being a persons or characters representing the rank and file of the criminal elements of any given society, country, or nation, which is representing the global community worldwide of the world's population of humans for our own species. Well, whatever I have said. So I say to you all, being of whom are my social media family, who are likewise as well all the same, being of the old and young alike as well, likewise as y'all of whatsoever races, and of both the two sexual genders, males and females, representing the same global community within this post 911 era of a new millennium, it's apocalyptic day and age, and whereas the doomsday clock is now at a couple few minutes to midnight compared on to our formerly previously prior to then, it was at a quarter to midnight for these rather biblically prophetic times. How are you all doing? Well, hopefully everyone is doing at least okay. If not better yet to be said, to be feeling all right, or if not best of all to be said, to be feeling blessed and stressed, more blessed and stressed, or too blessed to possibly be calm or be stressed. You and yours, your family and friends, and hopefully me and mine likewise as well, or all the same, or also, or whatever I have to say. Yes, your family and friends as well as yourselves, and me and mine right now. Then now that I have gotten that of the preliminaries or the basic intro out the way as an introduction. But then, regardless of whatever I could speak upon, be it one subject matter or another, or of any sort of type, an issue at hand, some such of a given argument with the pros and cons of different views and opinions associated with some as such, for that of a conversation, a dialogue to be debated upon a given topic of discussion. Yes, be I were to speak upon one of some as such to be possibly considered, be it of controversy or not, and be it of something of a problematic case or situation that has yet to be resolved if it has not been already. Or be I were to speak upon a couple, few, or four more for that matter. But then don't kill the messenger. I'm just here to deliver. And in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And hopefully I would think to do so of man's intentions with that much less uses of expletive of profanity, much rather than instead of, in other words, with that much more cuss words to simply say. And therefore, hopefully, likewise, I would stand less of a chance to speak my mind as someone or such a one, being of a person who is supposed to be a believing God, as in Christian, aka Protestant, playing the part of the devil's advocate, as lesser two evils being a prodigal son. And whereas the worst two evils is the likes of the false brethren, religious church hypocrites, religious chameleons, religious con artists or whatever I've said, being of whom are of the likes of those supposed so-called holier than thous, of modern day religious Pharisees and Sadducees, of wolves in sheep's clothing, snakes in the grass, who are of the worst of the worstest, of unbelievers and unbelievers, being of deceivers who pretend to have become or pretend to be believers in God, as in Christians, aka Protestants, and therefore they themselves are those to be considered among the likes would likewise as well, all the same, be considered as the worst of the worstest of closet devil worshippers, then of whom make up the majority of churchgoers, whatsoever religious denominations of members and visitors alike, from the pools to the pulpits. The many different religious denominations, churches. Alrighty. And now let me commence the exercise of verbatim. The same as said in question. As you notice or have witnessed, that of the title for this particular social media website address broadcast, and you're probably wondering, what exactly am I getting at? Or that is to be translated to be defined as meaning. Okay, like say, for example, first off, for the first subject matter topic of discussion, I will give an argument to be debated. Okay. And if I were to speak upon anything else from there, so be it, so let it be done. If not, well, how they say, consider your losses and count your blessings. Or until next time. Mm-hmm. But anyway, though, when I had composed this one title for this particular broadcast of mine, my own personal chat room, as an account holder of, with that this one particular social media website address app, being of which I have gone about the necessary business thereof to, be that my person to be affiliated, associated with, and representing, for my own individual personal chat room as an account holder thereof. I was making reference to that of my wardrobe ensemble attire, partly, and then some. Okay. Whereas it's taken me more time than I could have ever possibly imagined, or could have possibly have gone about, scheduling a particular time frame period for me myself to, sort and store away my personal effects, belongings, or possessions, and as the majority of some such are of clothing material or clothes, and for some reason or another, I wasn't able to knock it out. That is the household chore, and that in that vernacular, verbatim, whatever I say. So far as to sort my clothing or clothes, however said, as soon as possible, and then likewise store some in such a way within a reasonable amount of time. It's like somebody had sabotaged my general physical health, to prevent me from, nipping in the bud, getting it out the way at my earliest convenience, Well, hopefully I'm feeling much better than what I have felt like last, though. It seemed like I'm feeling the worse once again, but I still feel better regardless. Anyway, though, upon my person, that is me, myself, or I myself, or the person of my same self, having resumed that of the necessary business at hand, to try to get my clothing sorted, clothes, or whatever I want to put it, and then stored away. I noticed that compared to previously or prior to then, when I had, more or less for a time frame period, had first moved my stuff into my new digs or pad of Eunice Atmosphere place of residence, where I'm now paying annual monthly rent, compared on to the old one that I had moved from, whereas I was paying annual monthly rent, utilities, and home phone service fee bills for that one. Here it is that I noticed that more than quite a few of my clothing or clothes have come up missing. Like somebody has trespassed my premises properties and stole more than quite a bit. Whereas before then I had gobs and gobs. No, gob is not a word, is it? I had tons of clothing or clothes. Well, not literally, actually tons of clothing, but I had more than enough clothing or clothes to last me, for quite some time, you know, an extensive time frame period at that. And whereas some of such a quality material of different colors, different sorts of types of uh, quality materials, of fabrics and so forth, I have bought well a great amount of some of such. I had bought, as I paid for the purchases thereof out of my own pockets, out of my own pocket or wallet, you know, compared to other my that is supposed to be a part of my wardrobe ensemble attire of different ones I had you know picked up as freebies from wherever I could, and not just some of such, not in the least of anything that would be considered as junk, you know. Then you know what they say, something about, so I paraphrase, not quote exactly, an old cliche or phrase, a corn phrase, something that goes something like this here. So I paraphrase it, not quote exactly. One man's gold is another man's garbage, or one man's garbage is another man's gold. I don't know, something like that. So I'm noticing that more than quite a few of my clothing or clothes have come up missing, like somebody has trespassed my premises or properties to steal some of such. And like I get to think, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't do the right thing. And so now, whereas I find out that what clothing, wardrobe, apparels, or sets that I do have is so limited that is that being which is coordinate, the colors matching and so forth. And whereas I noticed that, more or most of my light colored pants, pair of pants are missing, you know. And then I'm noticing that pairs of pants from my different suit outfits are missing, you know. So I'm like, damn, I'm feeling so disgusted in noticing this here, you know. And who knows? Only God knows what else could possibly be missing so far as clothing or clothes of my own personal stash. Or hopefully something else is not mentioned of different other item products. So I'm like pretty much so highly pissed. That's the reason why I said much earlier, with the way I'm feeling at the moment. And hopefully you all feel much better than what I feel like. I mean, I'm trying to decide whether I'm just as pissed. I'm saying just as pissed at the thought that somebody stole, much needed clothing from me, left me with quite a limited supply of color coordinated clothes or shirts and pants to go together. I'm wondering if I'm just as pissed and thinking of a thief be one were to have had accomplishing crime or not, that trespass my premises property when I'm not here to, steal more than quite a bit of my clothing. Or can the feelings of me feeling pissed at the moment in that same lifetime sense of word regarding or making reference to what is more than what seems to be, like as in possible and potential fact? I'm wondering if I'm just as pissed at the theft of my clothing or clothes as I would be, pissed off at the racist, redneck, dickhead, prick, dirty cop, cocksucker, a faggoty, a closet faggot, bitch ass, son of a bitch, closet clan or closet Nazi, SOB bastard that had taken the life of a fellow American citizen of a male person being of black lineage, or that being of an African American. No, rather, if anything, let me say Negro American or Black American. I mean, those Africans, they don't relate to us. They're not Americans. How could they? I mean, we're not over there in Africa. Why should we call ourselves African Americans, speaking upon some of such other? You know? Oh, but that I'm just saying, if you look at it from one point of view, it's not another. I doubt if the average African would relate to us supposed so-called African Americans. You know, if I do recall correctly, they look down on us. They call us a bunch of cotton pickers, regardless of how we could have elevated ourselves, different ones among us, to to the level of different responsible positions or recognizable authority for whatever factions or segments of society that would make some of us movers and shakers, but then I have yet to become one myself. But not with the wardrobe, attire, ensemble of clothing or clothes I have at the moment, you know, whereas I would look more like, the boo of Raggedy Ann, or like some kind of well, practically, if not possibly, like a sort of type of circus clown, because very few and getting back to that subject matter and all, very few of my wardrobe ensemble attire is color coordinate, and pan a certain pants outfit, you know, and quite 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 like so all the same. No, that's not to have, but more than quite a few some of such different pairs of pants from my suit outfits are missing. So I'm like highly pissed. I if I don't have any much available, proper clothing. Say if the you know the many different businesses of source or type were to reopen itself or some of such, and to resume the hiring process, I would have practically, if not possibly, nothing to wear. If they were to, that if some of such were to open, but it's not likely anytime too soon, because as you know, our own country has become subject to experiencing a nationwide looting fiasco. I call it a fiasco being it because certain protesters, they weren't really protesting in behalf of the deceased being of the black male individual person who had died at the hands of a racist redneck dickhead prick, lousy dirty cop, faggoty or closet faggot bitch ass SOB. No, they weren't rioting to supposedly honor him. They weren't rioting, they weren't looting, most certainly not to honor him. They were just out there for themselves, taking advantage of the pandemonium of chaos or mayhem that had developed, as a result of that unfortunate incident of a fellow American having had his life taken from him, and as he was a different race, at the hands of some brain dead, or rather, let me say, brainwashed, brain dead, or brainless, uncivilized, prehistoric Neanderthal of a bonehead, butthead caveman from the Stone Age or Ice Age of the pre civil rights movement era, with all his racist bigotry that had caused all this pandemonium in the first place, of rioting and looting. Not that all protesters was out there doing so. Some of the protesters were actually literally peaceful protesters. I mean, I don't know, because I'm one of them, a peaceful protester, or regardless of whether or not I had actually marched with any protesters or the likes. But my heart was in it if I didn't. And what I didn't do, if I did not march in any peaceful protest, I did a lot of protesting online, but in a peaceable or peaceful way. So I am affiliated, associated with, and representing the peaceful protesters, and I sympathize and empathize with them. You know, regardless of whether or not I would have been able to march, depending on what my clothing, wardrobe, attire would be like. Some such an ensemble of different sorcerer types, but unfortunately, I am now much more having a quality and quantity of clothing or clothes or my wardrobe ensemble attire being rather uncoordinated than coordinated. And it really pisses me off. I mean, I feel like I could practically fuck somebody up. Well, that's not the half of I would. If I were to catch a dickhead, especially let it be said, if I were to have clear evidence, to verify my suspicions, to confirm that of somebody trespassing, if I were to catch one red-handed in my unit's atmosphere of a place rather than an apartment, then I would have every right to F one up, to put it like that, to rephrase that. I mean, it took me quite a bit of years to get some of those clothing or clothes. I would have had made purchases of some of them, got freebies, and then still at other times, some of the clothing that I had gotten, it was just most recent purchases, you could say, as well as most recent freebies. And here it is, I'm back where I started from. Whereas I'm going to have to practically wear odds and ends. I mean, got very few clothing, wardrobe, ensemble attire, or that being some or such of the same. I say sorts of types of clothes, being of which actually literally match up and are color coordinated compared to it. Looks like the majority of the clothing that I have is pretty much so uncoordinated. And that just pisses me the fuck off. It pisses me off. Think that some dickhead or whatever race, regardless of whether one was black or white or nigger or hunky, of a faggoty or closet faggot, bitch ass son of a bitch bastard, of a cocksucker that could have trespassed my premises, or probably more than likely, more often than not. When I say could have, possibly, that's meant more as a figure of speech. More than likely, one did. More than likely, more often than not. Otherwise, I wouldn't be pitching a bitch about missing clothing or clothes or whatever I've said as of the present given time. So I'm just trying to mellow out regardless. Because I prize, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, and as I, reiterate some such a passage out of the good book, where it says, what is the profit of man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul? And what shall a man give in exchange for a soul? So I paraphrase in my quote exactly. I don't put anything or anyone over the God of my own understanding, but you got to recognize or realize, that hurt regardless for believing God as I am. So imagine how much more pissed I would be if I was still an unbeliever, to have to think that somebody has stole more than quite a few of my clothing or clothes. So I'm practically, at the moment, trying to entertain myself with lines of thoughts, and action, but at the same time, not attempting to violate anybody's civil and human rights, to try to just look at this as a learning experience. I say, for example, got two comic books here. I'm still a comic book fan. Yeah, some say this is a means of escapism, like consuming, as in drinking intoxicating alcoholic beverages, or smoking a drug of choice. In a way it is, but in another way, if you look at it from another point of view, it's not really like to be compared on to vice versa. I mean, though it could possibly be addictive, but it's less life threatening compared to alcohol and drug consumption. Okay. Yeah, so I'm like, wow. Right about now, I would be trying to sort through some more of my clothing, but I'm gonna wait for daylight hour, because then I could see what is the real color of the clothing material or of the different clothes. Otherwise, I just be, going about the necessary household chore of that nature, practically, if not possibly, in vain. You know, compared to how I had resumed some of that task much earlier during daylight hours. So I can't do it now. It's nighttime, and how you say, manufactured lighting, man-made lighting, so to speak, does not compare on to the much more natural light of daylight. Man-made lighting coming from light bulbs and so forth. I can't really tell what is the color of a clothing material as much, you know, at night or in the evening compared to, in the day light or morning and afternoon hours. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm having to put that on hold for the moment, postpone it until the next morning. Like I said, it is taking it taking much longer, much too long, practically, possibly. Whereas I was hoping to knock this out, within the first couple or few months of me myself having moved to this new unit's atmosphere place rather than an apartment. And here it is, like practically halfway through the year, I'm still sorting through clothing, and that's in addition to how I suspect that more than quite a few of my clothing has come up missing, as in having been stolen from me or stole. Is there such a word as stole? Well, you get the general idea of what I'm saying. But you all on social media find it basic. Well, whatever I'm saying. And I'm like, well, I be damn. Ain't that a bitch? Ain't that a blip to put a mouth in? Yeah. Then I got all these damn crazy faggoty or closet faggot crank callers keep calling my home phone and my cell phones. And as I suspect that the likes among them could be some of such of these proverbial neighbors from hell, cocksuckers, or public nuisance of problem neighbors who could possibly be moonlighting as crank callers. And not only that, but likewise could possibly be moonlighting as stalkers. So I have my plate full at the moment, trying to deal with all this. I mean, I was trying to get back into the mellow mood of things, mellow mood, attitude, and so forth. I still am thinking about trying to give it to God. You know, yeah. Was it bad enough? I mean, I'm trying to give it to God since last time I tried to, do just that. Was it bad enough that at one time or another I was literally actually cussed out in a neighborhood church by a preacher man of the black persuasion, of this one wilderness left fulfilling nigger, you know, or nigger, that don't represent the rest of us black brothers, you know. And whereas I was slowly but surely trying to get back into the much more glorifying mood as a believer in God for the greater glory of our Lord and Savior Christ and Messiah delivered, only to find out that once I resumed that the activity at hand, been which is to try to think of it with mind's intentions to sort my clothing or clothes of my wardrobe ensemble attires. I find out that more than quite a bit of my I said more than quite a bit, so I say, and I'll stay for record. I find out from there that more than quite a bit of my clothing or clothes have come up missing, as in having been stolen from me. You know, and whereas if I were to catch a bitch ass son of a bitch, cocksucker, or faggoty, or closet faggot male, or whatever race, trespass my premises, properties of the unit's atmosphere of a place of residence of an apartment where I myself pay monthly annual rent for, I will beat his ass, practically and possibly by any means necessary. and I would have the right to do so. Man, because that's like a felony offense, a hate crime of that nature. Even if somebody were to just bother with your apartment door, not to mention literally actually trespass your premises or properties of a unit's atmosphere, a place within an apartment where you pay monthly annual rent for, as you would be on the apartment rental lease for a given unit of a place of residence. And the same line of thought in no sense of the word, and the bigger they are, the harder they fall. I'm like, damn, son of a bitch has stole more than quite a bit of my damn clothing. I'm like, of all the talk about adding insult to injury, you know, to complicate matters or compound a problem or what I already go through with this one faggot or call it faggot bitch ass, son of a bitch ass SOB bastard, psychopath, sociopath, and a sadist, cowardly bully, and a terrorist wannabe, proverbial neighbor from hell, character of a public nuisance, problem neighbor. You know, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just keeping it real. Sorry that I've been cussing and swearing like a drunken sailor on shore leave, but however one would have put it. I mean, the bottom line is I am pissed, to think that after the moving people or persons had ripped me off, put me through changes, with how they didn't even do half of the work that they had gotten paid to do. And for the hours that I paid them cash money, hundreds of dollars, to move my stuff from the old place of residence where I was at to this new one of Unit's atmosphere of an apartment. And so they gypped me out of quite a few hundreds of dollars, whereas they did less than half the work and moved less than half my personal effects, belongings, or possessions. And whereas the majority of most that I have here at the present is a clothing or clothes. Well, it was more clothing or clothing than what I have now. And like I said, now more of my clothing, hopefully not most or the majority of it, looks more like to be uncoordinated. Whereas I had more than quite a few, clothing matches of coordinate outfits of colors and fabrics and material. Now I'm back at square one. Like I said, some of the clothes I had collected over a period of years, whereas other I had just most recently made purchases of or got freebies for something such. And here it is. I'm back at square one. I'm having to, not only buy more clothing possibly in the near future and making purchases there for some such so that I could restock my wardrobe with ensemble attire. But then, likewise, I would have to consider getting freebies of clothing from wherever. So I'm pissed. I am pissed. And like I said before, and so I say again, oh, sorry about that, you all. Let me tune this out. That was a social media broadcast or something else. Sorry. And so, as I was about to say, and no offense meant to deceased of the fellow American who had become subject to experiencing the barbarianism of a police officer and his fellow officers who acted like they were above the law. Like the law does not apply to them. You know, as they was in the process of taking their fellow Americans' life as they had done and did. Now all four of them have been charged with a hate crime. But I'm wondering if I'm just as much pissed at the theft of my clothing as I am at how that one fellow American had his, rights and privileges as an American citizen violated, I say, and had his life taken from him at the hands of animals, other likes, those lousy, dirty cops. Okay. I mean, believe me when I say a person's clothing at times could be considered as one's lifeblood If you look at it from one point of view, it's not another. I mean, really now. I mean, I know that may sound rather callous to some, but it's really not. You know, if you look at it from one point of view, it's not another. And like I had said, no disrespect meant to the deceased, but if you don't have the proper clothing attire to attend a job interview, then you may not get that job. Just when you may need to put food on the table for your family members. You hear what I'm saying? You can't even play the part of Good Samaritan and help somebody else out if you are in need yourself. You can't clinch that position of employment then because you didn't score at the interview, then because you didn't have the proper clothing, see? Or you may not be able to qualify for school enrollment if you don't have the proper clothing to, attend the different educational classes to pursue a degree that could, from there become of a nature to be turned into a certificate or diploma because you don't have the clothing to attend a school or higher education, like similar to how you would not have the clothing to attend a job site as an employee on a business company payroll. And so that's like taking food from a person's mouth when somebody else deprives a person a available opportunity to broaden one's horizon. You hear what I'm saying? To try to elevate oneself, to become a mover and a shaker that could, from there, help one's fellow Americans. Because that's what we do as civilized persons of whatsoever races, whatever walks of life. Not counting the others who are antisocial, rejects the human race for our own species. Once we were to do better, we try to help our fellow man who has been left behind, regardless of race and whatever walk of life. We try to lend a helping hand. Because believe me, the old saying holds ever so true, being of the fact of the matter, those same people or persons that you be elevated over, or that you ascend the ladder and go past them, are going to be some of the same that you're going to see as you are falling down or be kicked down the ladder of success. You hear what I'm saying? So it's always wise to help your fellow man. If you gain a position of prosperity or of importance, etc., then because we all are like a domino effect, within the atmosphere as we have it, our present world as it was in the days of old, so it is now. It only takes one person to start a domino effect. Case in point, the dirty cop that killed a fellow American citizen, that caused all this nationwide pandemonium or chaos or mayhem, protests, riots, or looting, or whatever one wants to call it. It only took one person, to inspire others at some such given moment in time to fight off the Nazi barbarians upon the lands for the European, upon the land or terrain for the European country or nation of England, Great Britain, to keep the demonic hordes of barbarian animals from conquering the world. Whereas they stood alone against the likes until the Allies would come to their rescue, whereas they had to stand their ground until that time were to be acquired or gained, to save the world from becoming one big global dictatorship, to rule out any form or fashion of a democratic republic or democracy anywhere in the world. The power of one, remember that. The power of one. You hear? Like the like the hand in a painting raising up from a ground to let the world know about, the Holocaust of the Jewish, or like that of, some of such other uh, 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 black male holding a poster saying, "I am a man," to speak out against some of such other kind of horrific experience of the human equation, so far as slavery is concerned, that had inflicted mental anguish and or physical trauma upon another race of people or persons as we have it. For that of my own, I'm a mixed breed though. I'm supposed to be. Anyway, though, I guess I'm gonna wrap things up and conclude some of these matters with this here, okay? And whereas I usually would think of it with my intentions to express these verbal sentiments in closing or conclude, even if I have to force myself to say it, if it don't come naturally to me, to do just that. And that is, if you haven't gotten Christ as your, oh, we must not forget Rosa Parks. She was a pioneer to be considered as one of those who has started a domino effect. To complement what I was saying, the power of one. You know, not to mention some of such others, and most of all, our Lord and Savior Christ, as I was speaking upon him. And that is, as I was saying, or was about to say, to complete the former previous prior line of thought. If you haven't gotten Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, I would hope that you would think to do so now while the blood is still running warm in your veins. By recognizing and realizing what he himself had done upon the cross of Calvary on the hill of Golgotha, suffering at the hands of some such Roman soldiers upon the orders of their religious superior, being a Pharisee, Sadducee, but then nevertheless, whereas he himself had went to the cross of Calvary to become a perfect sacrifice, the only sacrifice for you as well as for me. So if any of us, being of whatsoever race and whatever walks of life, fashion, society, lifestyle preferences, being of old, young alike, of both two sexual genders, the males and females representing the global community within this post 911 era of a new millennial apocalyptic day and age, and whereas the doomsday clock is now at a couple few minutes to midnight compared on how formerly previous or prior to then, it was at a quarter midnight for these rather biblically prophetic times, or to profess some of such faith in them. From there we become or be blessed in one regard another, more ways than one. First and foremost, with his salvation being, which is the only means by which we can or could possibly hope to get into the kingdom of heaven, as all roads do not lead to heaven. Then second of all, with that of his deliverance. First you have got to get that of his salvation before you can get any blessings to be possibly considered. For that or some of such given moment in time. Because all roads do not lead to heaven. There's only one way into the kingdom of heaven. That's through the blood sacrifice of our Lord and Savior Christ, the Messiah, the deliverer. Because unless you have that of his blood of atonement, however said, upon and within your soul, you cannot enter into the kingdom of heaven. You will not be considered as a citizen thereof. And once you were to make that transition for the great beyond the hereafter, the afterlife, you will find out that to be the case of the situation, most certainly or definitely, as you would be assembled with the rest of the unbelievers and unbelievers of unsaved persons who have rejected so great a salvation, regardless of how many times they could have had to accept Christ as their personal Lord and Savior, but they continue to deny him entrance into their lives. And you will be damned for all eternity to be tortured and terrorized by the devil and his demons forever, compared to how we across the great divide otherwise of believers in God as in Christian, aka Protestants, saints of the fellowship, will be beyond that great divide that separates heaven from hell, and likewise beyond the pearly gates. As citizens of the kingdom of heaven, in the presence of other believers in God, and in the presence of God and his angels likewise, okay, whereas we would have a much different eternity compared to those others. Okay, you all take care and be safe. Be blessed, not stressed, even when you can, or could possibly become some such status as that being, if you're not already. And I will holler at you all later. Until then, take care and peace.